now, Dr. Muscatello. This looks just like Mars. It is so cool.
Actually, on Mars, it's quite cold, around minus 60 degrees Celsius. If we were really on Mars, you'd be frozen. Why don't you come inside?
If it's so cold on Mars, why do you have the habitat in the middle of a hot desert?
We built it here because this environment not only looks as alien as Mars, but it also exhibits landforms made by infrequent rain and wind that are very similar to the Martian landscape.
What is the purpose of the habitats?
The idea behind the habitats is to build simulated Mars bases here on Earth in places that resemble Mars as much as possible. Then scientists who volunteer their time live and work there and study the biology and geology of these Mars-like environments.
Where are the other Mars habitats?
Oh, we have one in Devon Island, which is in the Canadian Arctic. That's a polar desert just like Mars. A third habitat is being installed in Iceland, which resembles volcanic areas of Mars, and a fourth one is being designed for Australia, which has lots of very dry red desert terrain.
So what kinds of experiments do scientists do in the habitats?
Scientists live and work here just as they would on Mars. One ongoing research experiment being conducted is to look for microscopic life forms called extremophiles that can survive in very extreme environments.
Why do they look for extremophiles?
Mars might have similar organisms, so we need to know where to look and what characteristics they might have. Scientists are also looking at rocks in the desert that have a coating called desert varnish, which looks like a stain.
Why is that important?
The varnished rocks have a biological component that eats the rock. On Mars, the Spirit rover has examined rocks with varnish as well, so there might be a form of life on Mars.
Do you have your own Mars rover?
No, but we do have transportation. We use ATVs just like you did today.
Scientists use ATVs? Why would a scientist need an ATV?
To evaluate exploration techniques, they might use an ATV to extend an astronaut's range. Cliff reconnaissance vehicles can descend steep embankments. Their research might be useful to help us learn how to overcome the limitations of living on Mars.
I would love to live on Mars and ride ATVs.
Well, let's see what it would be like. But first, we have to put on our spacesuits.
Spacesuits? I don't have a spacesuit. Wow, this is great. Do you think that we'll really go to Mars?
Most definitely. We already have the technology to travel to Mars. We would just have to be very clever and use the resources that are already on the red planet.
What kind of resources does Mars have?
The atmosphere of Mars has a lot of carbon dioxide, which you would combine with hydrogen brought from the Earth. With the right catalyst, you make methane, which is your fuel for the return trip home.
But what would happen if you got there and the process didn't work?
With a plan developed by Robert Zubrin and David Baker called Mars Direct, you would send the Earth return vehicle to Mars without astronauts. It would land and start making fuel. Once you knew the fuel tanks were full, the astronauts would leave Earth.
Speaking of leaving Earth, can we go exploring?
You bet, but don't forget your helmet and backpack.
Yes, that's very important.
Are you ready to see Mars?
You bet.